Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're here to help you cut through the noise, get right to the core insights from your research stack, and really save you some time.
Give you that knowledge edge.
Exactly. So today, we're diving into something pretty interesting. A new project on the base chain called DMND, or Diamond. And look, this isn't just another meme coin popping up. It seems to be positioning itself very deliberately around, well, social consciousness, ethical transparency, empowerment. Quite a platform.
Yeah, it really is. And that's why it's important to look at, I think. It's challenging the usual playbook for meme tokens, you know.
Oh, so?
Well, typically you think speed, anonymity, cure speculation, right?
Yeah.
But DMND, which only showed up, January 23rd, 2025, on base, the Ethereum layer 2, it's actually trying to bake in things like long-term governance and, well, an ethical purpose from the get-go.
Okay, so that brings us to the core questions you wanted us to tackle for this deep dive. We're really zeroing in on three key areas. First, who is actually behind this? We need to understand the creator of DMND and, crucially, how involved are they really? Is this active leadership?
The founder question. Always critical.
Second, what's the vibe right now? What's the community sentiment like, and is the project being actively promoted online? Is there a real strategy there?
Yeah, the community health and the marketing push. Got it.
And finally, the big one. Given this unusual mix meme culture meets social mission, what's the realistic potential here? What could this token actually become?
And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? That central contradiction. You've got this highly speculative thing, a meme coin, trying to support something potentially quite stable on long-term, like social good or empowerment.
It's a paradox.
It is. And how they execute that is basically going to define whether this succeeds or fails.
Okay, so quite a bit to get into. Let's start right at the beginning then, with the person behind it all. The architect of DMND. All right, so usually with new crypto projects, especially ones that launch fast like this, the founder's identity is like the #1 risk factor. Anonymity is common.
Oh, absolutely. Pseudonymity is the norm, often.
But with DMND, it's different. The creator is known. It's Ryan Cohn, who's apparently a content creator, a YouTuber. His identity is public. He's doxxed.
And that is huge. It's not just a small detail. It fundamentally shifts how you calculate the risk here.
How so?
Well, think about it. Anonymity lets bad actors hide, right? If things go wrong, they just disappear. But when a founder is doxxed, like Cohn is, their personal reputation, their existing online brand, their whole history, it's all on the line.
It's accountability.
Exactly. There's built-in accountability. This immediate transparency gives a baseline level of trust that, honestly, most meme projects struggle for months to build, if they ever do.
Okay.
And it directly answers that first question you had about involvement.
Right. Is he actively driving it?
When your name and face are out there, your involvement has to be deep. It has to be sustained. You can't just, walk away quietly. It implies a serious commitment.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, what about how it was created? The Genesis story, we're told it wasn't like some huge dev team coding for a year. DMND was made using something called Toshimart, which is described as a meme coin generator.
Toshimart, yeah.
What does that tell us? Does using a generator imply anything about the project's technical depth versus maybe its focus elsewhere?
That's a good question. Using a generator like Toshimart definitely emphasizes speed and ease of launch. You can get something out the door incredibly quickly.
Right.
I mean, that January 23rd date shows how fast it can be. But yeah, the crypto world, using a generator sometimes makes people wonder about the uniqueness or robustness of the underlying smart contract code. It suggests the real innovation, the complexity, isn't necessarily in the back-end code itself.
So where is it?
It's likely more the front-end stuff, the marketing, the community building, the governance structure they're planning. For DMND, it seems clear the founder prioritized getting the narrative and the community aspect right, maybe over deep custom code. And for a socially focused coin, that might actually be a very deliberate strategic choice.
Interesting. Okay, let's dig into Ryan Cohn's background a bit more then. Because his history before crypto seems relevant to whether he can pull this off. He didn't start as a coder.
Yeah, no, not at all. He came from traditional business first. Started out, I believe, as a solar sales rep, and then became an entrepreneur in that space.
Solar sales and entrepreneurship? Okay.
Yeah, and those fields rely heavily on things like building trust, clear communication, and just consistently delivering, execution.
Right.
And perhaps more significantly, there's this point about fundraising during the COVID-19 pandemic. Apparently, he successfully raised $1.2 million during that really tough economic climate.
Wow, okay. $1.2 million during a global crisis. That's not insignificant. What skills does that suggest that might be useful for launching a crypto token?
Well, it demonstrates proven ability in organizing complex efforts, managing risk, and critically, building investor confidence. You don't raise that kind of money, especially then, without knowing how to clearly articulate a vision, get people on board, mobilize resources, and actually execute under pressure.
Skills definitely needed in crypto.
Absolutely essential for navigating the kind of extreme volatility you see in crypto markets. It's not just the amount raised, it's the whole process, the trust, the infrastructure needed to achieve that in a more traditional regulated business setting.
Okay, so he has this traditional business background, fundraising success.
Huh.
Then he shifted into crypto content creation.
Right, which means he wasn't just watching from the sidelines, he was actively involved in the conversation, shaping discussions around crypto.
And this wasn't just recently.
No, the information suggests his crypto experience goes back to 2016. That's significant. It means he's seen multiple market cycles, the crazy bull runs and the painful bear markets.
So he has perspective.
A lot of perspective, presumably. That kind of longevity usually means a pretty solid understanding of how these markets work, investor psychology, and, yeah, the inherent risks involved.
Surviving multiple major downturns builds a certain resilience, a more strategic long-term view.
And that experience could help offset some of the perceived risks of using a coin generator for the launch.
I think that's the argument, yes.
Yeah.
It suggests he's not naive about the challenges.
Okay, so if we pull this all together, Ryan Cohn's background, entrepreneurship, that successful $1 two-mana raise, deep crypto market experience since 2016, it paints a picture of someone with, let's say, strong execution capabilities. And combine that with his doc status, confirming that active involvement. This really does seem to build a foundation of trust, which you absolutely need for a project claiming to be about ethics, right? Absolutely. It becomes a non-negotiable requirement. And it means that things like the detailed roadmap they put out, the commitment to transparency, these aren't just words on paper. They're backed by someone whose track record suggests they can actually deliver in high-stakes situations.
His reputation is essentially collateral.
In a way, yes.
Right.
It's the project's primary asset right now. It creates this built-in incentive for him to act ethically and stick with it. So, back to your first core question. Is the creator actively driving the project? All the evidence we have points to a pretty strong yes.
All right, so we've got a handle on the who. Now let's pivot to the what's. And this is where DMND gets, well, really unique, I think. The brand narrative. It's very specific and socially conscious, a big step away from just, dog pictures or rocket emojis.
Yeah, this is probably the most distinctive part. It starts with the mascot choice. It's described as a blue-skinned female version of Pepe the Frog.
Pepe the Frog. Okay, that's a meme with a lot of baggage, culturally speaking, sometimes quite divisive.
Extremely complex history, yes. And using it, but specifically modifying it into this blue-skinned female character, is clearly a very calculated, symbolic move.
What's the symbolism they're going for?
The project's lore, the story they tell around it, positions this character as representing resilience and freedom. Specifically, freedom after escaping an abusive or toxic relationship.
Wow. Okay, so they're taking this piece of internet culture, Pepe, and trying to completely reframe it, infuse it with this entirely different meaning focused on empowerment.
Precisely. It's an attempt to hijack a known meme and pivot its meaning towards this mission. Community empowerment for victims of toxic relationships, and explicitly linking that to a focus on charity work.
That level of narrative detail, it feels different.
It gives the project what you might call a sticky quality. It's designed not just to attract speculators, but to pull in a specific niche audience that connects with the message on an emotional level. People bonded by empathy for the cause, not just the price chart.
Creates a stronger community bond, potentially.
That's the goal. A sense of collective purpose that could, in theory, make the community more resilient than one based purely on quick profits.
Okay, let's talk tech for a minute. It's built on the base chain. Now, there are lots of layer 1s, other layer 2s out there. Why base? Is that choice significant for a project focused on trust?
I think it is strategically important, yeah. Base is Coinbase's layer 2 network. That association is the key thing here.
Coinbase's reputation.
Right. While other L2s might be fast and cheap, Base carries this implicit connection to Coinbase, which is arguably one of the most regulated, institutionally focused crypto exchanges in the world. For a project like DMND, where trust and transparency are the main selling points,
leveraging that association makes sense.
that it's a powerful move. It might lower the barrier to entry mentally, for people who are maybe a bit skeptical of crypto, especially the more Wild West chains, often associated with scams or instability.
Plus the practical benefits of an L2.
And you get those too, of course. Base offers fast transactions, low gas fees. That's vital if you want to encourage actual community engagement, small trades, using future ecosystem features, donations, whatever, without people getting hammered by fees every time.
Okay, now the tokenomics. Total supply, 1 billion DMND tokens. The allocation seems pretty straightforward. 10% for the team, 10% for marketing. That doesn't sound too outrageous.
No, those are fairly standard allocations in the space, but as always with meme projects, the real test of trust isn't just the allocation percentages, it's the security. How do they prevent things from going wrong?
Yeah, the dreaded rug pull. How do they address that skepticism? Because it's always there with meme coins.
They absolutely have to address it head on. The source material says they detail comprehensive security features. This includes getting full source of proof audits done.
Okay, for our listeners who know the space but want the specifics, what does a full source of proof audit actually confirm, especially if the contract came from a generator like Toshimart?
Good question. So an audit, in this case, would verify that the smart contract code, even generated code, doesn't have obvious known security holes, backdoors, or malicious functions hidden inside.
Like functions allowing the founder to just drain the money.
Exactly. Or mint infinite new tokens, or change the rules after launch. The audit is basically an independent check that the code actually does what the project says it does in its white paper or documentation. It's crucial for legitimizing a contract, especially a generated one.
And they mention one specific measure against rug pulls, a firm lockup of 10% of the token supply. How does that work mechanically?
Yeah, that's a big one. Saying tokens are locked is easy, proving it is harder. A firm lockup typically means that the team's allocated tokens at 10% aren't just sitting in their wallet, they're sent to a special smart contract address that's time-locked.
Meaning they literally cannot touch them.
Correct. The contract code itself prevents those tokens from being moved or sold until a specific date in the future, which should be publicly verifiable on the blockchain. By doing this with a substantial chunk of their holdings, they create a technical barrier to dumping on the community early on.
Aligns incentives.
It does. It forces the team's financial interests to align more with the long-term success of the project. It's trust built through code, not just promises.
Okay, so summing up this section, DMND seems to be trying to balance this really provocative social mission with some concrete, almost institutionally aligned security steps, audits, lockups, all on Base, a layer 2 chosen partly for its perceived stability.
Right. It provides a pretty solid technical framework, which is important as we move into looking at how the community is actually responding to all this.
So we've got a reputable founder who seems actively involved and a platform with unique branding and security measures. Now let's take the pulse, the community. What's the current sentiment, and is this project actually being promoted actively online? That second key question.
Right. Looking at the numbers, DMND is definitely still in the very early nascent stage financially. The market cap is cited as being only around $35,000.
35,000. That's tiny. Extremely small in crypto terms.
It is. It means low liquidity, likely high volatility. But here's where it gets interesting. Contrast that tiny market cap with the holder count. 5,840 unique holders.
Wait, nearly 6,000 holders for a 35K market cap? That seems really spread out, highly distributed. What does that imply?
It suggests strong grassroots interest, doesn't it? It looks like a lot of people have bought in, maybe small amounts, likely drawn by the narrative or the founder's reputation, rather than just a few big whales controlling everything.
So wide appeal, but maybe not deep pockets yet.
Exactly. It points towards strong community intent or belief in the concept, but very limited financial capitalization at this point. Early days.
Okay, so despite the small financial size, the reports say the community is actively engaged. What's driving that positive feeling, especially in such a noisy, crowded market?
Well, according to the strategy, the drivers are meant to be primarily non-financial, which makes sense given the mission. First, you absolutely cannot discount the trust factor from the founder being doxxed.
That comes up again.
It has to. When a token's market cap is only 35K, people aren't betting on market mechanics, they're betting on the person and the vision. Ryan Cohn's reputation is likely carrying a lot of weight here.
What else?
Second, the existence of a detailed roadmap, plus the fact that Cohn is an active content creator who's presumably communicating regularly, that provides a sense of direction and constant updates. The community doesn't feel abandoned or left in the dark. That fosters organic growth.
And the theme itself, the empowerment narrative, the focus on toxic relationships, That must create a strong connection for some people,
Well,
no?
absolutely. That's the core of the sticky factor we talked about. This specific mission resonates deeply with a particular niche audience. It changes the dynamic from just gambling on a token to feeling like you're part of a shared cause, supporting something meaningful.
More resilient community bonding.
That's the theory. It could encourage longer-term holding and more passionate community defense against, the inevitable FUD or market swings that hit every meme project.
Okay, makes sense. Now, promotion. Is the team just relying on this organic interest in the theme, or are they actively pushing this project out there? The outline mentioned a promotional roadmap.
Oh, they are definitely not just waiting around. The plan described sounds quite sophisticated, actually. It blends some classic crypto marketing tactics with some more cutting-edge approaches.
But like what? Classic tactics first.
Well, standard stuff like collaborating with key opinion leaders, KOLs, influencers basically, using their reach to get the word out quickly to establish crypto audiences.
Okay. And the cutting edge stuff.
This is where it gets interesting. They plan to use an AI agent, specifically designed to distribute content organically across different platforms.
An AI agent for marketing. Tell me more about that. How does that work?
Yeah, it sounds complex, and it likely represents a significant investment. It really reflects Kuhn's background in content creation, I think. The idea is scalability and efficiency.
Oh, so
An AI agent could potentially manage the continuous, high-volume sharing of the project's story, news, and content, targeting relevant groups or discussions on places like Twitter, Telegram, maybe even TikTok or Reddit. It aims to 247 visibility and keeping the narrative fresh without needing a huge team constantly posting manually.
maximizing organic reach automatically.
That's the goal,
Mhm.
but it needs to be done carefully.
Right. What's the risk there? Does it feel authentic?
That's the main risk. If the AI's output feels too robotic, too spammy, or just bombards people relentlessly, it could backfire. It could annoy potential community members or get flagged by platforms undermining the organic feel they're aiming for. It needs really smart programming and fine-tuning to add value, not just noise.
Okay, so KOLs and AI, what else? They mentioned something quite specific. Airdrops to celebrities.
Yeah, specifically celebrities linked to causes around toxic relationships. This is a brilliant piece of mission-driven marketing, if they can pull it off.
How does that work?
It directly connects the token to high-profile people who are already advocates for the underlying social issue. It gets the project name and mission out of the crypto bubble and into mainstream conversations. Imagine if even one well-known celebrity simply acknowledges receiving the DMND tokens.
Instant, massive PR. Relatively low cost, too, compared to paying for an endorsement.
Exactly, high potential impact.
And finally, the ongoing charity integration. Supporting charities for victims of toxic relationships.
This serves as the constant proof point, doesn't it? It's the validation loop for their core narrative. The project claims to be about doing good, so actually donating, even if the amounts are small initially, given the market cap, provide tangible evidence that they're acting on the mission.
Builds long-term credibility.
And fosters deeper loyalty among holders who care about the cause. It also acts as a strong filter, attracting new investors who are specifically looking for projects with a social conscience.
Okay, so putting it all together for that second question. The community is small, but seems engaged and widely distributed, driven by trust in the founder and the unique mission. And promotion is definitely active, using a mix of influencers, AI automation, and targeted mission-aligned PR, like the celebrity airdrops and charity donations.
Yeah, it's a pretty comprehensive and strategically deployed promotional effort described there.
All right, we've covered the founder's active role, the unique concept and security, and the active community building and promotion. This leads us straight into that final critical question. What is the realistic potential for DMND? How does it get from a tiny 35K market cap to something sustainable and impactful?
Well, the potential really hinges entirely on whether they can successfully execute this differentiated strategy they've laid out. They're consciously trying to carve out a specific niche for themselves.
The ethical meme coin niche.
Sort of, yeah. Or maybe the trustworthy meme coin. In a market that's just flooded with speculative anonymous projects, this very explicit focus on transparency, the doxed founder, the ethical framing, it positions them quite well against the general skepticism that hangs over the whole space.
They're building a brand around governance in a sector often criticized for lacking it. Is that the idea?
I think that's a good way to put it. The narrative itself offers a different kind of value proposition. Instead of just betting on a joke or a meme to go viral, you're ostensibly buying into a community with a mission you believe in.
So the potential comes from attracting a different kind of investor.
Potentially, yes. If they can successfully reach and onboard people using those AI and KOL strategies, people who are perhaps values-driven and normally wouldn't touch meme coins, they could capture a significant market segment.
Okay, but potential needs mechanisms to translate into actual value. What are the structural things planned to drive growth and sustainability? Because that's where most meme coins fall apart, right?
Absolutely. Long-term survival usually requires more than just hype. It needs sound tokenomics, often involving deflationary pressures. DMND seems to understand this. They plan to launch a merchandise store.
Merch is pretty standard for crypto projects.
It is. But the key detail here is what they do with the proceeds. The plan is to use the money generated from selling merch to specifically buy DMND tokens from the open market and then burn them, permanently remove them from circulation.
Ah, a token burn mechanism funded by real-world activity.
Exactly. That creates a direct link between the project generating actual revenue from merch sales and increasing the scarcity and potentially the value of the token over time. It's a deflationary pressure.
That helps reward long-term holders and counters inflation. Makes sense.
It provides a structural reason for the token to potentially appreciate beyond just market sentiment. And they also plan to keep leveraging the base chain's advantages, those fast, cheap transactions, to make it easy for people to actually use the token within the ecosystem as it develops.
Speaking of ecosystem, they have bigger plans than just the token and merch, right? Something about a launch pad.
Yes, this is potentially the biggest strategic leap mentioned. They're planning to build a launchpad platform, but specifically designed to support other projects that also meet criteria for being ethical and transparent.
Wow, okay. So DMND wouldn't just be a token. It would become a platform itself, an incubator.
That seems to be the long-term vision. If they could actually pull that off, it would fundamentally change the nature of DMND. It moves from being just a single speculative asset to being a utility platform, a curator for trustworthy projects in the space.
Which would give the DMND token itself more utility.
Immense utility, potentially.
Yeah.
You might need to hold or stake DMND to participate in the launchpad, get early access to new projects, etc. That's the kind of mechanism that could justify a much larger market valuation, moving it well beyond typical meme hype. It positions DMND as potential infrastructure for what you might call ethical DeFi.
Okay, that's the upside potential. But we have to be realistic. Let's talk risks. Even with a credible founder, this is still a microcap meme coin.
The risks are still incredibly high. We absolutely cannot gloss over the $35,000 market cap. That signifies extreme volatility and fragility. Any negative news, any market downturn, even a small stumble in executing their roadmap could severely impact a project this small.
And the core conflict remains.
Yes. Can a super volatile asset like a meme coin realistically provide stable, reliable funding for genuine charitable work? Until this project reaches a much, much larger scale, tens, hundreds of millions in market cap, the charity angle, while laudable, might be seen by skeptics as more of a marketing tool than a significant source of aid.
It's a fair point. And while the founder's $1 2-memo raise in traditional business is impressive, does that directly translate to navigating the very specific, often murky, technical and regulatory waters of DeFi, where trust is tested constantly?
That is the key question about scaling and execution in this specific environment. However, the mitigating factors are still strong. That proven execution history, the detailed roadmap, these aren't nothing.
They provide a buffer.
They provide a foundation. They suggest a focus on building real infrastructure, the burn mechanism, the AI agent plans, the launchpad concept, not just throwing cash at hype. This structured approach is probably their best defense against the inherent risks.
So summarizing the potential, DMND is essentially an experiment. Can governance, transparency, and a social mission actually win out over pure speculation in the meme coin arena?
That's what it boils down to. Its success depends almost entirely on continued, consistent execution of their plans, especially the more ambitious ones, like the Launchpad and proving the AI marketing works effectively.
It's trying to offer something genuinely different.
Which is precisely why it has potential, but also why the risks are significant. If they maintain their integrity and keep building momentum, they could carve out a very interesting space. Hashtag take tag outro Weta.
Okay, that wraps up our deep dive into DMND on the base chain. We've covered the founder, the community and promotion, and the potential directly addressing those key questions you brought to us. Let's quickly synthesize the main takeaways for your research.
Sounds good. So first takeaway. The founder, Ryan Cohn, is public, known, and seems actively involved. His background shows execution capability in traditional business and long-term experience in crypto, which builds a crucial layer of trust right from the start.
Right. Second takeaway. The community, while financially small right now with that 35K market cap, appears quite broad, lots of holders, and seems genuinely engaged, likely due to that unique empowerment narrative. And this engagement is being actively nurtured through a plan involving KOLs, AI marketing, and mission-aligned PR.
And third, the project's future potential hinges on its highly differentiated strategy. It's aiming for value beyond just hype through concrete security, deflationary token burns tied to real-world activity like merch, and that ambitious plan for an ethical project launchpad which could provide significant long-term utility.
Yeah, this whole project is really a fascinating case study. It highlights how complex decentralized finance is becoming and the value in really understanding these projects that are trying deliberately to mix DeFi mechanics with real-world social missions, especially when they lead with transparency.
Absolutely. So thinking bigger picture, what does this mean for crypto overall? The rise of projects like this, these socially conscious meme coins, it poses a really important question, something for you to keep thinking about as you watch DMND develop.
What's the question?
Can genuine, long-term social good, real empowerment, actually be funded and organized effectively using something as inherently volatile and speculative as a meme token? Is that a sustainable model?
That is a compelling question, and I guess DMND is setting out to try and answer it. We'll have to see how it unfolds.
Indeed.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We hope this gives you the clarity and context you need for your next steps.